our feminine energy. It's got nothing to do with being female or feministic in a way. That feminine energy, our men have too. Understanding that it's intuition, it's creativity, it's that nurturing side, but it's also like deep rest. And it's that ability to be an expression.
Welcome to Elevate with Marissa. Unleash your inner magic and transform your life. Join me on a journey of inspiration, empowerment, and reconnecting you back to your true self. Discover your infinite potential and power to create and live the life of your dreams. Enjoy the show and elevate your mind, body, and soul to a higher level. Today, we are talking to Marie Ferguson, and I'm so excited to be joined by her. She's such a powerhouse. She's a remarkable force in the realms of feminine embodiment, youth empowerment, and creative expression. With over 16 years of experience in education, specializing in the arts and holding a Master's of Education, she has a profound love for empowering young women. Her journey is marked by resilience and empowerment, transcending personal challenges, including occupational burnout and multiple miscarriages. Drawing from ancient wisdom rooted in Priestess lineages, she now guides others on the profound journey of reconnecting with their feminine essence. Her background in dance and drama, combined with extensive experience teaching girls and young women, has inspired her work in the Menarche project and Awaecnian Academy. As a feminine embodiment coach and youth empowerment mentor, Marie facilitates lasting transformations by integrating psychology, leadership, development, and mindfulness into her coaching approach. An international author, she's celebrated for her contribution to Mum Magic, Mums for Change, an anthology that achieved bestseller status in 4 countries across 26 countries. Welcome, Marie. It is so lovely to have you here today. It's an absolute pleasure. You are such a powerhouse woman and you are such a lady of many, many, many talents. I've had so many great conversations with you already. So tell us a little bit about you and what you do and the magic that you bring forward.
Oh, thank you so much, Marissa. And I've just loved working with you also in the Beautiful Women Thrive space and Thrive Talks. I love your energy and thank you so much for having me here. You know, it's really interesting when we introduce ourselves, we think about these amazing titles, you know, that we step into life, and it's like being able to own all of those pieces, but also not. So I am a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a wife. I'm also a feminine embodiment coach and mentor. I work with the youth. I have a master's in education and specializing in the arts. I'm also an advanced breathwork facilitator. And I am an international author. There's lots of amazing things. And a global platform speaker and creator. I love that we get to embrace all of these pieces and we don't have to like niche ourselves in a box because we're all multi-talented and multifaceted beings. And that's a little bit about, I suppose, the titles, but the essence of what I do. I really love leading from that really heart-centered place. And so in connecting with people in community, working even intimately with my own family and friends and my own network, and just also reaching out globally. You know, I have this mission on my heart to connect not only in community locally, but globally and raise the vibration of mind, body, spirit, just creating safety in those spaces that we can find those really heart-centered connections and leaders and mentors and tribe that will help us as we grow together.
Amazing. I love that. And I love as well what you said about that rising of the global consciousness as well. I mean, I think that's something that I focus a lot on with my work as well. And it's been so beautiful to see such a shift over the last couple of years where people are really focused more on, I guess, helping the collective rather than it kind of being you're each for your own and, you know, how can you set yourself up? But there's a lot more collaboration coming through in partnerships, in businesses, in life. And I think there's a lot more people that are starting to go back to that like community and connection feel, which is so beautiful.
You know, I've always loved people, but then I found myself giving a lot to others without balancing my own care and needs. A lot of the last, I suppose, 2 to 3 years has been diving deeper into understanding myself and my energy so that I can come from this really grounded, magnetic, and honest place of leadership and serving of others that doesn't deplete my own energy. And that's been an interesting journey in itself.
Yeah, amazing. And with the Feminine Embodiment Coach, just chat on that a little bit more. Like, what's the sort of work that you do with that?
Yeah, beautiful. And, with understanding energy, we hear people talk about yin and yang, and we have feminine and masculine energy. We have light and shadow. This world is a world of duality. And I mentioned before, I kept giving, giving, giving. As a teacher, I would always give to my students, to the school community in these amazing, beautiful, creative outlets through dance, through musicals, through what I was creating in the classroom. And I was heavily in my masculine energy. Even though I was nurturing others, it was always this really activated, I've got to do this thing here, wake up here, do this training. It was like a lot of my energy was outputting to others, and I was forgetting about myself. And that coming back into understanding what that feminine essence and energy was really, really important, because when we break it down, our feminine energy, it's got nothing to do with being female or feministic in a way. That feminine energy, our men have too. Understanding that it's intuition, it's creativity, it's that nurturing side, but it's also like deep rest. And it's that ability to be an expression. Masculine energy, which we all need as well, is that aligned action, being able to put into creation the protective side. There is like a warrior side, but again, there's a warrior-ess, which again can be very feminine, but it's that really action-orientated space that we can then keep moving forward in our lives. And when it's whack and out of balance and we're not in harmony, this is where we can have dis-ease and be out of flow. And that's what I experienced a lot of in my career as a teacher. Some beautiful things that were always in flow when I was in creativity mode, but it wasn't in all facets of my life. And then my feminine and my masculine energy was definitely out of harmony.
Yeah. And, I even experienced that myself. Like for 23 years, I was in the beauty industry, but I was always in like management roles or higher position roles. So even though I was in a feminine industry, I was always in my masculine. And it wasn't then now until I've kind of shifted careers. And now I feel like I've definitely stepped more back into the feminine, but I'm still very much aware as well as like when you're working for yourself, it's like you're always doing, right? You have to have that drive and motivation. So for me, even it's like an ongoing balance with myself, like being able to balance out those masculine and feminine. So it's like, right, okay, if I'm having a big day where I'm like working a lot and I'm like pushing, it's like, how can I bring more flow into my day? How can I bring more ease and that fluidity into my day as well?
So true. And just being able to notice your own energy, your own thought patterns as well. And I found a lot of the time I was in my head creating these stories, creating these moments where I was like, if I don't do this, they're going to judge me. If I don't do this, I'm going to get reprimanded. If I don't do this, they're going to like expect less of me. And it was all these expectations that I had put on myself. And some of it wasn't mine. Some of it was like societal piece of like what it is, again, to be a leader in that educational industry, to provide opportunities and then deliver on that. It was interesting to kind of notice that those patterns were so like beautiful in some aspects, but then it was like, in my own personal relationships, because I was giving, my poor husband got the tired me, he got the sick me, he got the me that wasn't magnetic, that just was like wanting to sleep or get that work till midnight, 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, getting that marking done. And he didn't get any of that fun side of me that I gave to the kids, to the teenagers, to community. And it was also like noticing that in relationship, he also wasn't getting nourished in his feminine masculine and his ability to play, create, be expressive with me and in himself versus taking care of the house and cleaning and doing all these things that I wouldn't do because I was always out there. So it was interesting to really sit in noticing where we were showing up for each other and how we could be better. Yeah, it's been really beautiful to see a shift even in how we hold ourselves accountable now in self, but also in relationship and in our family. And we have amazing conversations now about feminine, masculine, about like these really rich conversations. I'm like, yeah, I want more of this. And that magnetism that comes online when you allow the feminine flow and the juices and all that goodness, that it's like you see those women that walk past you and they just got this glow and they just like ooze something. You're like, wow, who is that? I saw these amazing women like, I want to be like that. I feel like I'm the tired, like unglowing part. I want to be glowing. But that was a whole process to unwind and lean into.
Yeah, and I feel like it's been such an interesting landscape and dynamic over the last few years. People having to navigate masculine and feminine energies, because I think every generation does it better, right? And I feel like our generation are the trauma breakers. Like we're the ones that are changing patterns from the past. And if you look at the past, it was society. I mean, women, first of all, they were like housewives, so they went into the workforce. And then, so there's been a whole shifting in dynamics in the traditional roles, I guess, and then in the masculine and feminine energy. So all of a sudden, it's like we're having to evolve and keep up, not just with the changes in the world and having to, the way you parent and then work and juggling life responsibilities, but then also learning how to balance each other's energies and work and flow with each other. It is like learning like another love language, basically. And it's really interesting. But when you can get that balance and harmony in and complement each other, it's such a beautiful dynamic in a relationship.
I love it. It's like a dance, because even when your hands were dancing as you were doing that. And I love that metaphor that life is a dance and we get to express and work together and we could dance away. And then it's like this beautiful orchestration of expression and feeling and movement and how you get to move together and move apart. I found in understanding my flow and my energy and my emotions at different times of the month, because we as women are cyclical beings. We are attuned to nature. And our men, 24 hours, as long as they get a good night's sleep, they can just regenerate, do whatever they need to and reset. But for women, we've got these different parts of our cycle that we can tap into. And when I found out about how to look at it in this way and apply that and embody that in my own life, there's been a lot of magic that has shifted my whole essence of how I speak to people, how I hold myself in different situations, whether it's like tough conversations with family members, whether it's in parenting, whether it's with strangers, whether it's on an online call with someone. Like people feel your essence, and that dropping into that divine feminine energy then enhanced my masculine within me with a more beautiful, again, harmonization, that when I was taking aligned action, it was more in flow and more in that integrity of what my purpose and how my energy is utilized in those really specified moments that I get to choose and be in and notice. So this is where the past version of like being the martyr, being the go, heavily masculine, where it's like, okay, I can now notice this. And then when I do take action, it's really grounded in my body, in my choice, in my feeling sense. For me, that's really powerful.
One of the most transforming things for me in my own life was starting to work with my cycle. And I've done heaps of like womb healing, and I had the most amazing experience when I was in Costa Rica in ayahuasca. We had this ladies' night, and the female shaman was there, and she did this like womb healing. So I like laid up on the altar. I had like 2 shamans working around me. It was like the most incredible experience. And I highly recommend so many women to go and do womb healing, because if you've ever had any like fertility issues or birthing issues or whatever, it's like and that's like our life force energy center, right? For women, that's like our energy center. And then for me, working with my cycle was like, it just changed my life. And I'm feeling it this month because I didn't. And I pushed myself really hard that week. And then this week, I'm like, I'm tired. I just want to cry. I'm overwhelmed. It's too much. And it's so important. So generally, like when I work around my cycle, like I book less clients in. If I have to make any commitments, like I try and not do any filming commitments on that week. I try and make sure that it's a week where I can like really go into the descent and really honor that time to give resting time, because it is so important, and being able to do it guilt-free, because especially when you are working for yourself, you feel like you always need to be doing and doing and doing. And I feel like I'm more in creation when I have that rest time in there as well.
I agree with you. It's so powerful that you share that story, because the womb space, like you said, that's our creative life force energy. It also frames our sexual template from when we think about our menstrual cycle, when we come into getting our period for the first time. So this is that Menarche process. Some people call it Menarche. That rite of passage into womanhood is so important because it frames our template for womanhood. And so this is also why I love working with girls and teens and tweens, to understand and give that sense of empowerment and celebration back, because I never had that growing up. And when I found out this wisdom, the whole heap of energy and understanding unlocked after experiencing miscarriages. I had 3 miscarriages back to back in a 9-month period. I think my daughter was 4 years old at the time. There was a deep sense of, I'm not good enough to have a baby. I must be broken. There's something wrong with my womanhood. I must be a terrible mother. All of these things. But what the gift from that experience was, in a lot of shadow work, a lot of shedding, was coming back to the power of my womb, coming back to loving all of myself, coming back to also honoring my yoni, another word for vagina, if anyone is unfamiliar with that. And really these sacred, sensual parts of ourselves that we do shame a lot of as women. And I found that if I expect a beloved to love all of me in intimate ways, why couldn't I do it for myself?
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of really deep reflection, a lot of mirror work, a lot of exploration with curiosity, with advice from other beautiful mentors and women who knew this wisdom, where it was like, okay, I'm going to come at it with curiosity to understand this feeling of what pleasure and safety feels like in my body, because there were still parts of shame and guilt in these narratives that were ingrained in me as a child, into teenagehood, into my early womanhood, where it was like, oh, I can't feel pleasure. I'm stopping myself from feeling deep satisfaction and joy in that ecstasy of life. And I was like, if I want to live a life of orgasmic ecstasy, where it's like that joy, that pleasure in those moments, then how can I honor that part of my body, honor that in relationships, honor that in intimacy? And it was a whole other layering. And it was this beautiful womb work. You know, I did a lot of meditation. I did a lot of practices with acupuncture, as well as beautiful other honoring practices that perhaps come with labels of shame around it. And these beautiful self-pleasure practices that I only started exploring as, you know, in my late 30s. And it was like this wisdom and this knowledge had a lot of shame around it. And I feel like when women talk more about sensuality and self-pleasure practice and being able to honor their bodies and notice how powerful these sacred spaces are, it's amazing then what can happen and shift. There's a whole ecosystem that we have within our yonis and with our womb, and like tapping into the earth energies. This beautiful conversation, I wasn't even going to go here, but we're going here.
And I love it so much. I have so much to add on.
And it's like, we need to have safe spaces where we can talk about this openly, not only with just women, but with our men as well. And for our men to honor that part of us as sacred, and to really notice that the saying our bodies are a temple is not just there for a reason.
Yeah.
Okay? I'd love for you to share your insights on that.
maybe between 7 and 10 years ago, I hit burnout and I was completely depleted, like absolutely numbed out. And it had come through years of life experience. And then back to then, now I am where I am in my journey in life. I realized that that was a big turning point for me. And that was when I first discovered like Tantra. And for me, it was like, that was the first time, because I felt like I had to literally rebuild myself back up from the ashes. I was so numbed out, like mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, like there was nothing left in the tank. So I had to start rebuilding everything from the ground up. So that was when I first discovered Tantra. And then now I've like add that into the work that I do. And I went off and, studied it for 2 years and did a big indoctrination in it. And for me, I do that. I add that work in a lot with my clients, both men and women, but women in particular, because I work with a lot of clients that have had sexual abuse and it's not been safe to feel. So you numb stuff out and you completely disconnect. So I work a lot with restoring that mind and the body connection. And I think when you say like working with like Tantra, people think, oh, it's just like, you just fuck for hours or whatever. It's like, they don't understand the philosophy behind it. And it is restoring that felt sensation in the body. And I explain it, it's like when you can start tuning back into yourself, into the subtleties of the sensations, because it's not just about the self-pleasuring or the pleasure receptors in one area. It's about the pleasure receptors in your entire life. Once you can tune into these like subtleties within your body, you can energetically tune into what feels right or wrong, if somebody's aligned for you or not, if they're worth going into an intimate relationship with them, because energetic STDs are completely a real thing. And then it's like everything becomes pleasurable. It's like food is more enjoyable, like eating, like tasting, like smelling. Like I feel like all of my senses have been completely heightened since I've started going down this journey. And it's like everything now, it's like I'm so much more receptive to things that feel right or wrong, like physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So I feel like my filter is so high with people when I meet them now, because I'm so hyper attuned into what feels aligned and what feels like it's energizing or depleting me.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. Like the senses becoming heightened. It just reminded me of this beautiful Rouse retreat that I helped support and work on last year with these amazing women. We had this blindfolded dinner and blindfolded circle. And so it was like eating food blindfolded, and then we got them into circle, but then we all got to just put feathers on their face or massage their hands and feet and just like love on them in a really beautiful, safe way, just to feel in the senses and that sensuality as woman, to have that safety to feel embodied. It is like so beautiful to support that space and just to see their expressions. It's like, this is life, right? And so, yeah, I love that piece about that. And as the women, we've been so guarded. We've guarded our yonis, we've guarded our womb spaces because of the traumas that have happened collectively to women. And it's something that I know the work that I do is about breaking those bonds and allowing that safety to come back into self and into relationships and into communities again, and to bring that trust back. And I think that's a really big mission. I have really big missions on my heart. And I know that like people like yourself, there are others that feel this too. And it's like, how do we get to trust ourselves again and trust each other? And this then gets to uplift. And there are baby steps along the way, but it's like when we can start doing that and openly have conversations about this work, to allow ourselves to feel pleasures, like to enjoy life, to break away those barriers and those belief systems and those embodied pieces, because it's the body has memory, the body has wisdom. Sometimes it's not yours, that safe response. And I suppose this is why I love hearing about the work that you do, with going into the hypnotherapy and going deeper, because when you realize it's not yours, then you can let it go, because that story doesn't serve you anymore. And then the body can go, oh, okay, we don't need that. Let's heal that. And this is like the quantum shifts that can happen through breath work, through hypnosis, through dance, ecstatic dance and movement, through these embodied ways of feeling, but also the safety that can be created with a mentor or a guide or a practitioner, and also in spaces, whether it's like a dance group or whether it's a retreat space or whether it's a clinic. It doesn't matter. It's that safety that gets to be cultivated, so then we can then do the work to shed those layers.
I love that so much. And I think it is that returning to safety as well, because, yeah, you're right. Like, it hasn't been safe, and there's been things collectively, but also personally that people go through as well. And I love also, thank you for sharing your birth stories as well, because that is something that so many women struggle with and often struggle in silence. And there's a lot of guilt and shame around things that happen with fertility. And, you know, I mean, look, I'm 44 and I get asked all the time about like having children or whatever. I'm 44 in May.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I thought you were like 35.
No, I'm 44 in May. So
Oh my gosh. Bless you.
But I do feel like my body feels like it's young still. But I'm like, well, also I want to live till I'm like over 100. So I'm like, you know, I'm only halfway. I'm not even halfway there yet. I'm a quarter of the way there. But, you know, it's like people ask me a lot, and it's like, you know, you just never know what women are going through in terms of their life story or relationships or fertility or whatever. So it's like quite a sensitive subject for many women, and even women that have families and have children have still gone through issues and struggles. So I think it's kind of removing that stigma that women need to suffer in silence. And I think also as well, like just that general awareness and sensitivity around those conversations with people, because it hasn't always been an easy journey for women. And when you're asking questions continually to people, it can be really triggering for a lot of things.
Totally. And I know when I was in those periods of deep loss, I was triggered by women that were pregnant, and I've never been a jealous person, but there was like jealous and envy that was like creeping up. And I was like, why them and not me?
Yeah.
And those triggers and those moments, no matter, it comes from, you know, that comparison, right? And those expectations that we have. And it was a lot of deep going within to also be okay that I was feeling jealousy and envy, and to just sit with those feelings because of what I was going through, and to just understanding the layers that there was also grief and loss that I wasn't processing because I kept going back to work and I kept pushing myself to numb. I know what the numbness feels like. And that numbness wasn't only just emotional, but it was very, very physical as well, where it was like, I just want to feel something. That whole experience of like numbness is a feel. I don't know. We can hear the word numb, but when you're actually in it and that you feel so empty and nothing, sometimes you can't compare that to anything else. And to feel that depth of emotion, I think how beautiful that I got to experience that, because now I know what people feel like in whatever other experiences are. And I can relate and understand and know how fucking hard it is, because we can come out of it. And you mentioned the phoenix rising out of the ashes. I felt that same experience where it was like I was in an ecstatic dance class where I wanted to feel again. I wanted to dance again. And I was like searching for places where I could get back into my body. And it was like this hour-long session, and there was like beautiful music, and there was like men and women from all age groups. They were just there to dance and feel and to shift through. And I had this moment where I dropped to my knees and I saw this, like I was in the ashes, and I was just like, it was like this very fiery music. And it was like, I could see this phoenix coming out, and it was like rising. Okay. It was like these words like rise, rise, goosebumps thinking about it. And it was that moment, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to just fucking be in the dirt and feel this anymore. I'm going to rise, and that's going to, I don't know how long that's going to take, but it was that moment of like deciding that I'm going to be like the phoenix, the fiery, beautiful flames of just flying and soaring high and rising into my greatness. And it was that moment where I was like, no more. I'm not going to be that old version of myself anymore. Okay, yeah, that was really powerful.
I love that. And I think there is power in feeling through the emotions, because life is duality, right? Everything's seasonal, like nothing stays the same in life and nothing is permanent, right? And we're, I guess, not taught to emotionally regulate and move through our emotions. It's like a learned skill. And this is the work that I do with everyone. Like as an adult, people as children weren't taught how to emotionally communicate and regulate themselves. And, you know, it's definitely like that learned skill. And I think we feel like you feel these strong emotions like rage or anger or resentment or jealousy or whatever, and they're really strong feelings within the body, right? And it can feel really intense. And if you're not able to move that and regulate that and process that through, it can feel really like a lot. So people then just generally tend to numb it out. But if you're numbing it out, then you get stuck in that numbness. You end up in that state of depression or whatever, because you can't push and move and process and filter through those emotions, and it will come out in one way or another. And I think it's so important to honor the process and the journey of feeling those feelings and feeling the feels, because they're there for a reason. We need to honor them and face them and shine the light on that shadow side within us, because that's where that true power comes from. And it helps you to navigate through life easier when you can really sit in with your own messiness and your own self and face it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so powerful. I think with our children, right, you know, I catch myself sometimes as a mother telling my daughter to just chill and breathe and just calm down and stop crying. And then I'm like, no, just let her feel it. Let her cry it out and let her complete whatever it is she needs to complete. So there are times where I can hold space for that. And then times where I catch myself where I'm like, oh, that's an old pattern. Why am I telling her to stop crying when she's clearly in an emotional state that's not going to stop crying?
Yeah.
And when we think about our little children and our teenagers, that anger, giving them safe spaces to scream into a pillow or punch it out in a punching bag, allowing them to feel it to its fullness.
Yep.
Allows it to be released, because as kids, we weren't allowed to feel the fullness of it. And so I found with rage, I suppressed rage a lot as a girl, as a teenager, because I got a beautiful Filipino mother, lots of beautiful gifts there, but it was like, girls are not meant to do it that way. You need to shut up and be quiet. You need to act this way. And it was very much suppressed. So the rage came up through the miscarriages and through the last and the final one that I had. It was like this primal rage that felt like mine from childhood, but also not mine. It felt like more than. It was like my mother's. It felt like my mother's mother's. It felt like this whole lineage of rage that came up, and this anger. And I did express it to God, source. And I was like so angry. And I was like, why? You know, and it was just this piece that I hadn't allowed it to be fully expressed. And how many of the women in my line, you know, we carry 14 generations within our DNA.
Insane, isn't it?
I know. And it's like all of that came up through that loss, through that grief, through that anger of whatever it is I was feeling to be felt. And that rage came through in other moments that was unexpected, but allowing myself the spaciousness now with the knowledge that I had to feel through it, because it was required not only for me in that moment, and a lot of it was with women, either at a retreat or more recently online with just sisters holding me, noticing my energy, noticing that there were pieces, and like having the space for me to build that safety to let it go. And I'm like, there's so many layers. And, you know, when we think, oh, now I'm fully released, I've got no more rage in me. And, you know, you never know. There could be some more pieces. And this is that evolutionary journey as we evolve and grow. And lots of people talk about the onion layers, and we keep peeling back, but it's not just looping. We're also like going in this spiral, this upward spiral.
It's such an amazing journey in life, isn't it? All of the polarity, everything we feel. So I always love to ask, so what are like 3 tips and strategies that you can provide to help people to elevate, transform, make change easy, and to live their best life?
Just going to breathe into that now. Number one, the breath. Allow yourself to breathe deep and slower on the exhale. Because when we allow ourselves to slow down, then immediately our parasympathetic nervous system, because we've got a parasympathetic and a sympathetic, and I know you know this, but it like reminds the body to just take a moment to just go deeper and then activate back into your prefrontal cortex to then take the next logical moment or decision instead of noticing the triggers or noticing that emotional state. So I find just even 3 deep breaths, imagine your belly rise, because a lot of us breathe. I think there's like 70 to 80% of people breathe incorrectly around the world. A lot of it's really shallow breath through the chest. And so when we breathe deeper into the diaphragm and allow the belly to rise and for us to exhale, just in those micro moments, you've got a softening and a calmness. So I found even in like heightened conversations, I'm calling them heightened conversations now instead of arguments because they are still conversations in a way. In those moments, like whether it's with your parents, whether it's with your partner, whether it's with your children, that are heightened, that are triggered, if you can harness your own body that you can control and tap into your breath, you would be amazed to see how you can navigate and change the trajectory of that conversation. Instead of it blowing up and having full meltdowns, you might be surprised that it may resolve because of how you have navigated your energy. So back to the breath. That's tip number 1. We've spoken a lot about movement, even now speaking to you, breathing into it. Yeah, allowing your body to move, like dance, go out, into your garden or into nature and just allow yourself to just like stretch and breathe, even reach up to the sky, come back down to the earth, go and take a dance class, or even just dance in your kitchen. It doesn't have to be, anywhere. I like being with people, but I also like dancing with my daughter and just being silly and having fun.
Love that.
Into the body. And tip number 3, surround yourself with amazing people who inspire you, people that you feel are going to challenge you, but in a really beautiful way, people that you look up to and people that are doing the things that you want to do. Because they say like your network is your net worth. The 6 people you surround yourself, you become. So when you start surrounding yourself with amazing women, of course, your networks are going to change. You're going to start bringing in more opportunities to connect with them, either in business or in friendships or who knows what's happening. Go out into a new community group. Maybe there are people doing an activity that you wanted to do as a kid. And you're like, I really want to do an art class. Go and do an art class. You never know who you're going to meet there. You're going to spark that inner child, that creativity, that life force energy to come back into your body.
Yeah.
And create something fun.
Amazing. I love that. I love those tips. And I feel like they are all things that people can easily add into their everyday life as well. So beautiful. I feel like I could talk to you for hours. You're so interesting. I love all of this sort of stuff. Thank you so much for your time today, Marie. It was an absolute pleasure having you, and I look forward to connecting with you again further.
Thank you, Marissa. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much for being here, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. So head on over and give a like to show your love and follow the channel to stay up to date with all of the new episodes as soon as they become available. Thank you.